popular and people love what we do, and we hope we can continue to thrive and grow and be a part of the community. Place where you can come and have some nice comfort food here, some have a drink and leave, you know. I would definitely recommend, my favorite is the chicken and cheese.
Chicken and cheese.
Chicken and cheese.
You have beef?
We have beef.
I'll have the beef. I'll have the beef.
Please enjoy.
Good morning. Welcome to Kelvin.
I'm good. How are you?
The business has been
I
around
think so.
year end
Yeah.
2019.
Actually, no.
Yeah, you're in the
It was
middle, yeah.
closed for approximately a year, and then 2021 we started up again. But in that time when it was closed, we started to go into farming.
What was your inspiration to get into smoothie? Because you want people to look as nice and young as you do.
I used to eat meat, and then it break out
Alexis,
my
can
face,
go
and
here,
it caused
and
some
then
gut problems. So I
go next to
decided,
the
you know what?
food, yeah.
I don't want to eat meat. I want to have nutrition inside of my body. So I just started to do smoothies at home 3 times a day. Then I thought of it and said, let me open up a smoothie bar.
How has the small business environment been for you in terms of, your business and what you're trying to do?
But I would say, when it comes to the agriculture sector, it has helped extremely. I must give thanks to Banky. He gave me a real good hand and some drip irrigation system and so forth. So in that aspect, he helped me.
Keisha, it was absolutely a pleasure being here.
Okay, good night.
We are so impressed with what you're doing. Watermelon with the samples was very sweet, very refreshing. It's definitely from farm to blender. We're growing Nevis together. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. You're welcome.
Morning. Morning.
Morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. Just want to welcome you guys to A1 Farms. We started here in 2010 when we went commercial. And when you come here, you realize that everything here is fresh, tasty, and ready for the market. So the technology really has improved our output big time. And so it's work in progress, really. Every year we try to improve on the last year and try to correct where we went wrong and keep going. Inside here, this is what we call our cucumber house. This was the 3rd greenhouse that we built, and this was built back in 2017. Cucumbers, lettuce, tomatoes, peppers, kale, cilantro, more of the fast cash crop. We really don't have trained technicians in the greenhouse production area. So that has been in itself one of my biggest challenges. If you look into this greenhouse, just as you see me here, I'm not as sharp as the premier or the deputy premier, but I could work in this environment and not get real dirty. It's a sexy profession. There's money to be made, lots of money to be made, and with the right training, you could make a good career and a good living from it.
Good morning. Welcome to the Spring Cafe. My name is Alison Smith-Mason.
So Alison, thank you for having us here. We're going around and we're having a conversation with small business people. Just get a sense from them as to how things are going.
So at the Spring Cafe, we're trying to link the wellness with the hot springs, the benefit of the hot springs by eating healthy and clean. So we're basically offering everything here that is clean and healthy. The pumpkin muffins, we do have cranberry, pumpkin seeds inside. We have flax seeds, coconut drops. We reduce all the stuff that we make. The sugars are reduced. So today I have for you a sample, and you're now the first one to get my branded label on your item. So the parfait is basically a citrus coconut parfait. It's a vanilla flavored, and it's a berry granola. And then it's topped with another layer of yogurt with fresh berries, pumpkin seeds, pine nuts, sesame seeds, toasted coconut. Or I also have sunrise So this is orange juice, frozen mango, moringa, flaxseed, or banana. I blend this with some ice.
Just this alone can be my breakfast, you know?
Yes.
So I love the labeling, and I love the improvements that I'm seeing here. Great to have you here on site.
So thank you.
And we wish your business all the very success.
Good evening.
Good morning. Pretty good. That's a pretty message.
Good morning, I'm fine. Thank you. I'm Olivia
That's a pretty
Sampson.
message that you're looking at Samson's Pride shop.
Yes, yes, artist.
All right. And what services do you offer?
Well, my salon is split into two sections where I offer nail care and hair services as well. I offer services such as manicure and pedicure, gel polishes, polygel nails, acrylic nails, and biab nails. Build a gel in a bottle.
So what are our chances of getting some luck?
Well, you'll have to come back when you go a little bit more there.
Let's see Miss Sampson's spa. Oh, this is beautiful.
Thank you very much.
What's the business like?
Sometimes it can be really challenging depending on the season.
So tell me, so did you do some special training to be able to offer this service?
Well, I actually attended the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College in St. Kitts, where I studied business, entrepreneurship, and management of business.
Ms. Sampson, it was an absolute pleasure coming to see your spa. I'm always impressed when I see young people doing great things. Congratulations for taking the plunge, and I wish you every success.
Thank you very much for stopping by the spa, Samson's Pride Artistry.
Good morning, Mr. Brantley. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good morning, good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
So, good morning.
Good
Thank
morning
you for having
again.
us. You want
Okay.
to travel out of Nevis.
Yes. Where would you
so-
like to travel?
So, I'm trying to get to St. Croix.
I'm trying to get to St. Martin.
Okay.
And I am also trying to get to St. Martin as well.
Okay.
So you have two people going to St. Martin, and I'm going to St. Croix.
If you want to go to St. Croix, we have Cape Air. We go to St. Croix on Fridays and Sundays direct. And for St. Martin, both of you would like to travel from Nevis to St. Martin.
Absolutely.
So we have Winner that goes directly on the weekends. We do Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays, which is direct to St. Martin from Nevis. We have Trans-Anguilla that goes every day from Nevis to Anguilla. We leave here at 4:30. And Antigua, Trans-Anguilla do Antigua as well. We leave here at 12:30. And for St. Thomas, we have Cape Air that goes every day from Nevis to St. Thomas. Yes, every day. I have everybody today. Yes.
So, Melody, thank you. We wanted to come and just to showcase some of what you do. You've been the backbone here at Sammy Airport for a very long time.
It's nice, nice, nice. Yes. Welcome to the Nevis Water Department, where our mission is to provide safe and sustainable water to the island of Nevis. Hi, my name is Santania Mills, manager of the Nevis Water Department. The Nevis Water Department has 4 key divisions, including the production division, which is responsible for overseeing electrical maintenance, repairs and equipment installation at all booster stations and production wells.
In observation of World Water Week, we'll be focusing on water production and the different areas within the Nevis Water Department. In the production division, we'll be focusing on how we get groundwater to our primary storage tanks. Installing a pump and a motor inside of a well is the first step in ensuring we could provide potable water. After the pump and the motor is installed inside this well, we have a motor starter that would be used to start the pump and motor to deliver the water to the primary storage tanks. We put the end of this probe inside of the chick water downpipe. Once the probe reaches its water table, the water level indicator would sound to let us know that it has reached. This would let us know what level our water table is at. It is 614 feet. We are here at the Fothergills booster station, where we have a booster set of 4. These booster sets are used to deliver water to persons living above the primary storage tanks.
So we are fixing a 4-inch line at Prospect. It had a split, so we just getting it organized. So the whole of Prospect and Cherry Garden will get out the water in about 15-20 minutes. We are at the fire hydrant. We're closing it back. This is the way to get the leak fixed fast. So you have to empty the line. So we're here at the car point to turn back on the water. This has to be opened slowly to prevent from any blowout.
Good day, everyone. My name is Javed Powell. So what we're going to do now is search for the main pipe, and then we're going to put a saddle on this pipe to make a new connection so we can have water distributed over here to this property where this new development is going to be proceeding.
Good day, my name is Omar McDonald. I am the mechanic for Water Department, currently stationed at the Public Works Department. Today we will be aligning this Toyota Hilux. We changed some front end parts on it. Now we're gonna get the steering straight. Woo!
The distribution division is responsible for pipe and meter maintenance. The Quality Control Division focuses on lab testing where we ensure our water is free of impurities.
Today we went to the Hamilton Reserve and we collected a sample of water. We did the chlorine residual on site, the turbidity, and also the chloride. Doing the fecal coliform and the total coliform. So we do this process at least once a month where we go around the island and we check all the tanks and standpipes and well as well. We do this to ensure the quality of the water and the safety for consumption. The process doesn't compete today. It competes tomorrow at about the same time because the test takes at least 24 hours to cultivate its bacteria. This is for the fecal and the other is for the total.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Hamilton Filtration Plant. It is here because we are drawing from one of the third biggest wells that we have on the island. It is very hot in nature.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out to tonight's town hall meeting. My name is Shaniel Skeet, and I'll be your moderator for this evening's discussion. But first, I'd like to acknowledge the Premier, the Honorable Mark Browne, Minister of Finance, Human Resources et al., the Honorable Janelle Nisbet, Minister of Health et al., the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, Parliament Representative for Nevis 11 and Special Advisor to the Premier. And I would also like to acknowledge in the audience Deputy Premier, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, Minister responsible for Agriculture and Housing and Land et al., and also Minister Brand, Minister responsible for Communications, Labor et al. I also want to acknowledge permanent secretaries and other heads of departments who will be in the audience. Their presence shows their commitment to hearing from the people directly they serve, and on behalf of the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration and the panel, I want to extend a warm welcome to all residents who are here with us this evening. Your presence and your interest in the developments of the island and its communities is greatly appreciated. So the purpose of tonight's town hall meeting is a part of the NIA's continued commitment to transparency, communication, and collaboration with the people of Nevis. And tonight, they're here to share some important updates with you, hear your concerns, and answer any questions that you may have. Your feedback and ideas matter, and this space is for open dialogue. So just a few housekeeping rules. We ask that to make tonight as productive as possible, we ask that everyone remain respectful with their questions and comments, listen actively, and keep your comments as constructive as possible. You allow others to speak without interruption, and we will also be facilitating online questions. For those in person, if you want to ask a question, just stand, state your name, and then proceed with your question or comment. I also ask that you put your cell phones on vibrate or silence to avoid any interruption. So I will now head on over to our panel, and we will now begin with Premier Browne, as he will introduce himself and give opening remarks.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and it's good to be in the wonderful parish of St. James, and for those who are here, those who are on their way, I trust that they get here safely, and certainly I'm sure that there are people who are listening and viewing online, and we say good evening to all. As our moderator for this evening has indicated, this is an effort by the government to come into the communities in Nevis, to engage with the communities and to have a conversation with persons that we serve. The idea really is for us to report, but also to get your feedback, to get your concerns, to try and answer questions, and to give you as much information as we can. I have repeatedly said that I'm very proud of this government's efforts to reach out to our people, to be accessible, and to answer questions. No government, in my opinion, that this island has had has been as open and as transparent and as accessible as we have been. And whether it's on radio, whether it's through the Premier's monthly press conference, whether it's through town hall meetings like this, the whole idea really is to give us an opportunity to hear from you and to give you an opportunity to hear from us. That, to me, is what government is about, and that is why we're doing this. I hasten to add, because of course the critics, as always, are out in their numbers, that there is no election in the air. There is no campaigning that is happening. This is an effort by us to come to you and to report to you. The Honorable Alexis Jeffers is with us this evening because, as you know, he is a special advisor, but he's also charged with a very significant project that is happening right here in the parish of St. James, and we thought that it was important to have him, since this project is going to impact in a significant way the people of St. James, but also the people of Nevis. And what we have done is that we have tried to rotate the panel as we go from parish to parish, from constituency to constituency, so that you get different reports at different points in time. Of course, we hope that people will follow us for all the 5 parishes. But for those who can't and are at home listening, we are hopeful that each town hall gives you something a bit different. I want to take a moment, because I like to deal with statistics, and I wanted to take a moment to just outline to the good people of St. James the efforts that we have been making in the area of housing, in the area of St. James specifically. We have the Minister of Housing here, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, our Deputy Premier, and he has taken over the reins from the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, who's on my right seated. But I believe that we have had a housing revolution in Nevis. And the way that I see housing and what we have done in terms of housing is really that each home represents a family that now has their own roof over their heads. Each home represents that single mother, that small nuclear family, that single dad who now has a roof over his children's head. Each home represents a start in terms of our people acquiring home ownership, our people getting an asset, our people getting something. And this government has always said that it is our objective to ensure that every single Nevisian has a piece of the rock, that each and every one of us has an ability to own something on this island. And we continue to encourage our people to invest. We know that home ownership is a significant part of what each of us will do in our lifetime. And so we encourage you to invest. And I just wanted to share some statistics, because the good people of St. James ought to know that they have, in the last decade, benefited far more than any other parish in terms of housing from the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation. From 2013, we have constructed already some 112 homes in St. James. 31 in Cedar View Phase 1, 22 in Cedar View Phase 2, 34 in Cedar View Phase 3, Madden Sunrise 8, Nisbet Settlement 5, Nisbet Estate 2, and University Heights 10, for a total of 112. And if you realize, the reason I listed them out, it's sort of all over St. James that you're seeing housing happening. Now, some may argue and say, well, we don't see housing happening in our area, meaning our village. And whilst that is true sometimes, I want to just say to the people of Nevis that part of that is due to where we have land. That is where the government has access to land. The government is not a large landowner in Nevis. And so the government doesn't have access to land in every single village. And so where we have access to land, we have been maximizing the use of that land. And so in part, we've seen more housing in St. James because the government had access to Maddens, which is a large tract of land. Whereas in other communities, take St. Paul's, for example, the government does not own any land that is usable land for purposes of housing. But lest you feel that the housing revolution has only been in St. James, the good people of St. Thomas's have had 22 homes built through the NHLDC during that same period. The good people of St. Paul's have had 31 homes built during that period. And the thing about St. Paul's is we had to purchase land privately from private owners and then use that land. And so we would have done 21 homes in Mountain Crest, that is at the top of Craddock Road, and another 10 homes thus far in a development that we did in Hamilton. We are constantly looking for land which is reasonably priced. Let me emphasize that. Reasonably priced that the government can purchase and then use for purposes of housing. In Gingerland, we have done 25 homes based on the stats that I got from the NHLDC. 8 brand new homes in Rices, 15 I'm told in Zion, and 2 up in Rollins. And I believe that, Minister Evelyn, you're getting ready to open up a significant new housing development in the Zion area, if I'm correct. In St. John's, my own constituency, we have had 46 homes built in that period, 6 in Bart Village, 21 in Cherry Gardens Phase C, and 19 in Chimney Crescent. The total then of homes built over the last decade or so has been 236 homes that this government has delivered to the people of Nevis, to young people, to people who are trying to get a first home,
for people who are needing assistance in terms of acquiring real estate, this government has delivered and delivered significantly. I will end on this housing bit just to say that, again, with the assistance of the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, who's here, we have negotiated and now concluded the purchase of some 36 acres of land at Garner's estate. I believe Garner's is just above us here. And those lands are being subdivided and will be offered in short order, again, to the people of Nevis who are desirous of buying a piece of land and owning a piece of the rock. I say these things, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to emphasize that as a government, we are engaged in sustainable development. We're engaged in doing things, projects, policy prescriptions that ultimately make the lives of our people better. Sometimes when you're dealing with sustainable projects, you're dealing with sustainability, people see it as boring. People say, man, that's taking too long. But the reality is that if you do it right. Someone told me recently that if you don't have time to do it right, then where will you find time to do it over? And I believe that's an excellent position that all of us should have in our lifetimes. If you don't take the time to do it right, where will you find the time to do it over? And so we are trying to do it right, and we're trying to get development that is long-term, that is sustainable for the benefit of all of our people. I know we're limited. I know I've gone over 5 minutes. So I'm going to leave it there and try to come back in the next round when I get another opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Premier Brantley. Before we move on to Minister Nisbet, I just want to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Troy Liburd, the Minister responsible for Education, Youth and Sports et al., and also Mr. Weekly Daniel, the PS in the Premier's Ministry. I'll now take it over to Minister Nisbet to do her introduction.
Good evening, everyone. First, let me just acknowledge my cabinet colleagues as well as, of course, the representative in the federal administration, Mr. Alexis Jeffers, as well as our permanent secretaries, all the members of the audience, those viewing and listening online. Good evening. I will do my utmost best, Madam Chair, to keep it within the 5 minutes as I attempt to highlight not everything, because we do not have the time for everything, but some of the highlights within the Ministry of Health, Gender Affairs, and Social Empowerment that fall under my purview. So I will start with the Ministry of Health and attempt to touch the different subsections of the ministry. In terms of the Ministry of Health, I think I can begin at our infrastructural development in the Ministry of Health. And while the focus is often on the expansion project, which we are still committed to getting off the ground by the end of this year, we continue to work on several infrastructure projects within the Ministry of Health as well, smaller projects to ensure that the hospital is run at an effective and efficient level. So some of those that are ongoing is the complete overhaul of the pharmacy at the Alexandria Hospital. That project is nearing completion at the end of July. We have basically torn out all the structures inside and we have refabricated it with more environmentally friendly material to suit the environment, as well as redone the flooring with medical grade flooring. This will make it more conducive to both the workers and individuals accessing that facility. A similar project has started in the physiotherapy area, and so we are working towards also revamping and upgrading that area, as well as improving the ventilation in that space to make it more effective for use. We've been working on the Alexandria Kitchen project for some time, and that project has been more or less completed for quite a bit of time, but we have been delayed slightly by global issues that we have very little control over on the island of Nevis. So we have now secured the transformer, which has been the missing piece for that project, and we are working on the installation of that. And so you can keep your ears out shortly for the fact that that aspect of renovation, which will house a brand new kitchen, new equipment, as well as offices and facilities for our nutrition and dietetics specialists. I will just look quickly at some of the equipment as well that we've invested in the Ministry of Health. Some of the major equipment over the last few years, I can highlight two, the CT scan machine as well as the mammogram machine, and those have made some significant impacts on the lives of Nevisians because those were not accessible on the island of Nevis prior to these additions. If I can zoom in on the mammogram machine, for example, when we integrated that into our health offerings, we didn't want it to be a service that only those who have insurance or those who have extra finances can afford. So we introduced a policy where, one, we made the cost low and affordable, heavily subsidized, but above that, we decided for the first 6 months of its implementation, we would make it free of cost to all individuals in St. Kitts and Nevis. And I say St. Kitts and Nevis because some individuals from St. Kitts also came over and benefited from that program. I think we would have serviced during that time basically 400, I think the number was 399 women were able to access that free care service through our mammogram services. But even though that happened for that first period of time, earlier this year when we were celebrating Women's Month in March, we decided that, you know, we can partner within gender affairs, within the ministry, partner within the Ministry of Health and gender affairs to carve out a week where women can once again access that service free of cost, and somewhere close to 100 women would have accessed that services. So we continue to ensure that quality health care is available to everyone regardless of any financial barriers. I think the Premier would have mentioned at one of our last town halls how many doctors and specialists we have on island, so I will not lament on those specific numbers again. But I want to highlight that in addition to those that we have on the ground, we have consistently aimed to build out our relationships with visiting specialists who come to the island frequently throughout the year to provide services that are not in and of themselves sustainable to have on the island themselves all year around. So we had a team last week of visiting pulmonologists, and they were offering services once again free of cost to individuals on Nevis. And I'm told that 80 individuals were able to benefit from free assessments. They were given free equipment such as sleep apnea machines. They were diagnosed with different lung ailments, whether it be asthma or otherwise. So those individuals were able to tap into that critical service free of cost. We know we have our eye care program that happens twice annually, as well as our colon screening program, our prostate screening program that also happens annually through these partnerships. But while we continue to invest in these relationships, we also invest in our own medical professionals as well. And so we continue to provide funding for individuals who are studying nursing, which we consider an extreme priority area on the island. We invest in those by providing support, monetary support, as they pursue their degree on the island of St. Kitts. And we also, during my tenure, I noted that our doctors were previously not supported when they opted to go off to specialize. And if we want the specialties, we have to invest in our personnel to ensure that they get them. So we've incentivized that option as well, and we introduced a monthly stipend as well for those doctors who are pursuing specialties. Currently, we have some overseas pursuing ophthalmology and gynecology, and I think anesthesiology. So those are some of the areas that we continue to make sure that our staff is up to par to providing health care. I anticipate that I'm passing my timeline, but I will continue just so that they get a little bit more insight. I'll jump over to the Department of Gender Affairs. They continue to do their work in sensitizing on all gender-related issues, not women's issues, men, women, and everything across the spectrum. One of their flagship programs that I want to highlight through the Department of Gender Affairs is our daycare voucher assistance program. And that program is open all year round, so I encourage parents, men, women, families who have children between 0 to 3 to call the Department of Gender Affairs, and if you meet the financial criteria, that can provide up to 75% of subsidized daycare funding for your child or children. And this program is unique in that it does not force you to access one particular daycare. It allows you to access the daycare of your choice in your area, and then we communicate directly with those providers to provide that subsidy for you. I'll touch the Department of Community Development for just a bit because they continue to do great work, and we know that community development is the fabric of our society. One area that they have introduced recently is their Multicultural Heritage Festival, and this year we had the second edition of that. And that is basically highlighting the cross-section of individuals who have decided to migrate and make a home, plant roots here in the community of Nevis. I think Miko said we never thought we would live to see foreigners migrate to our country. Well, we're living to see it, and we have representation in those activities from across the globe. And I will come soon to a close by tying in our Department of Social Services. Again, they continue to be like the silent backbone that holds up society. But to highlight one area within that department is the seniors program. And our seniors program is so robust, it's so effective and thorough that we have recently been identified and given the designation as a PAHO WHO age-friendly city in the Eastern Caribbean, the first PAHO WHO recognized age-friendly city in the Eastern Caribbean. And that is definitely no small achievement. It's testament to the benefits and care that we've been providing to our seniors who have been benefiting from programs such as free electricity, water subsidies, community caregivers, discounted services at our hospital. As of October this year, we will be officially launching our Senior Safe program, which will aim to consolidate all the benefits accessible to that seniors can access across government. And this will be done in a tiered approach where we do assessments of our seniors and their household to tailor benefits to those who are most vulnerable and to ensure that you can access the service that best suits you. So for example, if you find a 75-year-old living alone, they have a small social security stipend of a few $100s, they don't have their own property or much family support, you might find them at level 1 receiving all those benefits, electricity, water, food subsidies, among others. Whereas if you have an individual, you know, you're receiving a significant pension, $5,000, $4,000, you have your own home, you have your children who are contributing, you can benefit from our social programs, our significant birthday milestone program, our community caregiver program. And so there's something for everyone, and I want to sensitize you that that is coming. And the first step in that process will be engagement with our seniors. So look out for that. We will be engaging you to tailor the program specifically to your needs. And with that, Madam Chair, I wrap up.
Thank you, Minister Nisbet. We'll now head on over to Honorable Alexis Jeffers to give his introductory remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And first, let me recognize the members of the table, Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, Honorable Janelle Nisbet, and of course, Chairperson Shani, and all of the cabinet members who are here this evening. And I recognize all of you for coming out this evening as well, because to come here to listen to what is being said and even participate, it takes some of your time and effort to come here, and we appreciate that. So thanks for coming. My task here this evening is to speak a little bit about the expansion of the Van Summer International Airport. And indeed, project that we would have started in 2015, and COVID-19 came along in 2020, and there was some derailment of the project, so to speak. We couldn't spend as much time on it as we would like to. And then thereafter, in 2023, the Premier and the Cabinet would have tasked me with the, given me the task of coordinating this project and bringing all of the pieces together. So here we are in 2025, and I will say at this point in time, so many things have happened since 2023 to this point in time. I recall in 2023, we were told that this project will never get off the ground. That was the first thing that was said. And then by 2024, there was a protest against the project in terms of 6 persons were down there one Friday afternoon with some placards saying they don't want it to happen. And of course, by the start of 2025, we are now hearing the question being asked, when will the project start? And that is a good question, and it will start this year, but I'll leave that for the Premier and the Cabinet to decide the exact date and time. What I will say to you this evening, though, is that we've made significant progress in terms of land issues, financing, the design, and so forth. All of those pieces are coming together at this point in time. I want to say to you as well that nothing happens before its time, because I just spoke about COVID-19. We lost perhaps 2 years on this project, and we're making up time as we go, and we're doing an excellent job in that regard. I will say that one of the major challenges that we had initially was the negotiations with one of the major landowners who we would have written to since 2020. And of course, we came to a decision earlier this year to do what we're about to do in terms of paying that landowner and then moving on to the others. So last week, I believe the Premier would have gave an update as to when the Cabinet will be moving forward with those payments. And it sounds like it's very soon. I can leave it as that because the Premier may speak about that later in this town hall meeting. But my task here is to give you the most current update. And that is to say to you that when we thought about this project and continuing with it, I must say, people were the front and center of this project. And when I say people, the movement of people. And just to put it into context, we can build a 6,000 feet length of road here on Nevis to move people from one point to the next. For example, from Butlers to Brick Hill and beyond, or from Brick Hill to Butlers and beyond. And that is internally. We have built the Wally Water taxi facility down there to move people between both islands in a quick and efficient way. Now, the airport expansion, which is just about 6,000 feet of runway, will move people from Nevis to international countries or international destinations, regional destinations. So when we are finished, aircraft would leave here to Miami, Washington, D.C., New York, and beyond to Europe in terms of the private jets, and even to Asia. So it therefore means 6,000 feet of runway will give us access to the entire world, as against a 6,000 feet of runway or roadway that would give you access to various parts of the island of Nevis. Movement of people is important for the development of an island. That is how people come to your country or to your island to visit and to spend money. And that is how your people are able to move from Nevis to other parts of the world for vacation, for schooling, and whatever other their desires are there. So that is why this facility is important to the overall development of Nevis, and we've been speaking ever so eloquently about growing Nevis together and growing this island, and this airport expansion is a huge step in that direction in moving Nevis to the next level of its development. So what will happen at Van Samra International Airport? Of course, there are a number of things that will be done. This is a massive project, worth somewhere in the region of $40 million or thereabout. So we'll see an upgrade of the entire infrastructure there in terms of the extension of the runway to 6,000 feet, as I just said, the reinforcement of the runway, new lighting, airport runway lighting that is, the expansion of the passenger terminal, a brand new fire hall to support the, that type of activity in terms of fighting a fire or any disaster that takes place. The improvement in the control tower. We'll also see a construction of a brand new customs building because we're moving the cargo handling services out of the terminal into a brand new facility. And of course, there'll be the construction of a brand new jet hangar, and also a FBO, which is called a fixed base operation, that will handle services that are needed by those private jets. Of course, there'll be a brand new fuel facility built, and the improvement of the existing apron that is on the north side of the passenger terminal, and a brand new parking area to house just about 50 private jets. One of the major changes that would take place in and around the facility is the realignment of the island main road. Currently, as you see it, the road runs just in front of the Tire World. That would be moved south, and a brand new approximately 900-meter road would be put in place for persons who are traversing the area. So all that area that the road now sits will be a part of the airport facility for parking of jets and so forth. So with this particular upgrade, we'll see employment in all areas during construction. Employment of contractors and subcontractors, electrician, plumbers, tilers, all that. So during the construction phase, all of the regular employment that is normally associated with construction will be there. Indeed, the new road that will be constructed, that will provide work for heavy equipment, operators, truckers, and engineers. And indeed, after all is said and done, when all of the construction is completed, there will be an increased demand for personnel workers within the airport itself. For example, airline attendants, air traffic controllers, customs officers, NASPA security officers, ramp attendant, baggage handlers, persons who will be working at the fixed base operation or the FBO. And indeed, all areas of airport operation will need additional workers. So if one were to look at what is envisaged down at the Van Sammer International Airport, we'll say during the construction phase and even after construction, you're looking at in excess of 300 workers in all areas when it's all said and done, and perhaps more. But that is just a rough idea as to how many additional workers will be needed there. So basically, as I said before, it is a huge investment for the island of Nevis. This is the first time that this type of expansion has been done at Van Sammer International Airport since 2001, thereabout. I remember when that was done to accommodate the American Eagle, that is the turboprop out of Puerto Rico. And those of us who would recall, there were at least 4 landing and takeoff per day of the American Eagle then. And we anticipate there'll be multiple American Eagles that will be coming to Nevis after this airport is finally expanded and the operations are in place. Because we have been talking to all of our partners and all of the stakeholders, and they are looking forward towards this particular investment. Four Seasons, for example, if I were to give you by way of example at this point in time, when guests are coming into Four Seasons or the landing syndicates, Four Seasons have to mobilize an entire team to go to the RLB to take care of their guests over at the RLB and package their luggage and the likes and bring them over to the Southeast Peninsula. Those are the things that we want to eliminate. And why I say that is because we spend a lot of money to promote the island of Nevis. And so in spending those dollars to promote the island of Nevis, we want to capture all of the benefits of our advertising dollars. And that is to say that we want our guests to be coming directly to us. We understand that the mode of transportation and travel have changed over the years. People want to get to their destination in the shortest possible time, moving from point A to point B, and not having to move from point A to go to point C to get to point B. And that is what this expansion is about. Nevis would never see its true potential unless we're able to get this particular infrastructure upgraded to the point where persons have direct access to the island of Nevis. I believe I've gone beyond 5 minutes. They said my time limit is 5. So we'll have some more time to discuss the airport, I'm sure, as we go along. So I'll leave it there for now. But we're seeking to grow Nevis together as a team and as a people. when it's all said and done, Nevis belongs to all of us, and the development that takes place here on the island of Nevis is for all of us to benefit from. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Jeffers. So now we will open the floor for questions, because that's what we're here for. And as I said earlier, be respectful. We'll also facilitate online questions, so feel free to send those in, but we'll now start with those in the audience. I also want to say that we have a few other ministers of cabinet in the audience as well, so if you have questions that you would like to direct to them, they are here to answer as well. So as I said, you could just stand, a microphone will come to you, state your name, and then you proceed with your question or comment. So we do have a few online questions. So I'll start with one until those in the audience warm up. So a question that came in, it was directed to Premier Browne. It stated that the people of the St. James constituency, they do not currently have a representative in government, so they feel somewhat neglected. So what specific measures is the administration taking to ensure that the needs and concerns of the St. James's community are heard and addressed fairly?
So St. James has, since I believe it was 1992, had a representative in government. Since 1992. 2022, St. James decided not to have a representative in government. St. John's decided to continue to have a representative in government. St. Paul's decided to continue to have a representative in government. St. George decided to continue to have a representative in government. The good people of St. James say, we want to be in opposition. I don't understand it. So I'm wondering if it's a St. James person asking me that question, because St. James had, in my humble opinion, one of the best performing ministers the island of Nevis has ever seen. When we look at St. James, we look at housing in Maddens, we look at the water taxi facility that has revolutionized travel between St. Kitts and Nevis. We look at Shaw's Road, we look at the police station and fire station. We see all this development that happened in St. I'm not even talking about the rest of Nevis for now. I'm talking about in St. James, led by the representative from St. James. And St. James people decide, man, we're getting too much good treatment, we prefer to go in opposition. So I don't know how to answer that question. What I will say to you is that since the change in St. James, I have, as Premier of Nevis, not had a single representation made to me by the new representative in St. James about any project in St. James. And that new representative has been there now since December of 2022. What I will say is that the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, who is at my right, continues to bring concerns, continues to bring issues to us, and we have been trying to address those issues and concerns. We have not as a government turned our backs on St. James, because we recognize that St. James is a critical part of the island of Nevis and what we're doing on the island of Nevis. And that is why, Madam Moderator, we have big projects like the airport project. And you know, people say to me, why did you ask Alexis Jeffers to deal with the airport project? And my answer was simple. Because where the island has had important large-scale projects, and we have put them in his hands, he has delivered. And that is the truth. I'm not here to try and make him look good. I am here because the evidence is there to see. And so when St. James people drive on the roads, they see the police station, they take the water taxi, they see the development in St. James, they drive down to Maddens. I took 2 people from the Commonwealth based in the UK, both of them African ladies, took them to Maddens And one of the ladies says, "Sir, please stop, I need to take a picture." Because people back in her country will not believe that this is government housing. And St. James see all of that and decide to move in a different direction. So you all at St. James people are going to have to explain to me what happened. I don't believe St. James enjoyed the good treatment they were getting. That's all I could say. Sometimes people don't like good treatment. You know? A fella sometimes leave his missus and go someplace else, and then he begged the missus, please take him back. Because the treatment he thought he was going to get, he didn't get. I make light of it. And of course, we live in a democracy, and people must make their decisions in a democracy. But to me, the move that was made over here in St. James boggles my mind. Because if you wanted performance, performance was there to be seen, to be touched, to be felt. And so I really could not understand that. But I say to the people of St. James, notwithstanding that, we have not, will not, and cannot abandon St. James. And so you will see development continue here. Mr. Jeffers spoke about the airport. We anticipate a lot of employment and a lot of activity. We anticipate trucks, backhoes, excavators happening right here in St. James again, as it becomes yet again a hive of activity. So that is what we're seeking to do.
Good evening. I have two questions, one to Mr. Jeffers and one to the Premier. Mr. Jeffers first. Mr. Jeffers, with the expansion of the airport, are we planning on getting rid of that forest east of my property in Newcastle? And the one for the Premier. Mr. Premier, I tried to address the issue of parking for physically disabled people in Nevis. I'm still waiting. I've been trying to get you to address it for over a year now. There were 2 of these parking spaces in front of TDC on the waterfront, but we find that persons who are not disabled utilize those parking spots. I spoke to the police officer in charge of Nevis, and he said he will look into it. I also spoke to one of the meter parking or parking attendants in Charlestown, and they said that the reason why they are not giving tickets is because the places are not properly marked now. Many people can't see the markings, and so they would not give any tickets until such time as it's rectified. So can I get that, an answer to that? Because I myself am physically disabled, and I find it terrible when I want to come to town to do business and have to park all the way up by the Methodist Church parking area. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Nolan, the simple answer to your question is yes. Sounds like that's what you'd appreciate to have done. That's the removal of the forest, as you suggest, yeah? Those lands at the east of you are lands that we'll be acquiring. And of course, to get the work done that we need done in the area, we'll have to remove some of the vegetation, of course. So if you're seeking to have some aeration, so to speak, of the area, that will happen. Meaning all of those manganiel trees and all those tall trees in the back of you, they more than likely would be removed. It's as simple as that, yeah.
Mr. Nolan, thank you very much, and I think you've raised a very important question. As we know, parking in Charleston is at a premium. It's more and more cars are coming into the island. I took a walk the other morning, and I passed by a home, and I believe that I know that there are 4 people living in that home. There were 7 cars parked outside. Each month, we get dozens of vehicles that are coming into Nevis. And so everybody now is buying 1, 2, sometimes more vehicles, and so there's more and more traffic on the roads, and therefore the need for parking continues to grow. Charlestown is only so big, and there's very little that we can do to provide additional parking in Charlestown. In some countries, and I know you have lived abroad, they have rules and restrictions in terms of certain days, certain hours. They invite people to carpool, they encourage people to share transportation in order to keep down that demand. Now, I say that because parking is already at a premium. So when we start to talk about designated parking for people with disabilities, it means, therefore, that these are parking slots that are only going to be available to people with disabilities. And what the reverse of that is that they will not be available to other Nevisians who are trying to park in town. All around the world, there are special provisions for people with disabilities. Here's the difficulty, Mr. Nolan. In Nevis, we don't have groups that are making representation to us based on information, based on data. So you have stood up tonight and you said you have a disability and you find it difficult. But if I had data which said, listen, there are 100 people like Mr. Nolan, they come to town this often, this is therefore a need that we have to fill. But let us say it's only Mr. Nolan. I'm being a little facetious, but let us say it's only Mr. Nolan with a disability, and he comes town once every 2 weeks. Should I have designated parking for Mr. Nolan, who comes town once every 2 weeks, and it means that that parking is not available to any other Nevisian who has the same business to do as Mr. Nolan? So what would help us is getting data, where people say, listen, there's this body of persons. They can come, they can present and say, listen, we need 10 spots because this is the frequency in terms of use. This is the frequency that we come into town. We are working in town, whatever. We don't have that. And so with already scarce parking, the question that we have to deal with and grapple with is how do we allocate space for persons with disabilities when we don't know what the demand is? We don't know how many people actually with disabilities are driving and need parking so that we permanently designate spaces. It is a very real concern and a very important question that you've raised. We absolutely have to find an answer, but therein lies the difficulty. So just by way of analogy, you realize sometimes in Charleston, the police, because ultimately traffic is controlled by the police. So the police come and they put some yellow lines, and there are howls of protests from the public. The police would say, we've put the yellow lines because we need the yellow lines to allow traffic to flow more easily, to prevent congestion, etc. The members of the public say, you're taking away valuable parking spots. So where are we supposed to park? All over town you have yellow line now. And again, there's a lack of data. A lot of things are being done just on the basis of Mr. Nolan said he needs some place to park, so let us try and find something to accommodate Mr. Nolan. But Mr. Nolan, if you only go in town once a month, should you have a designated parking in town? These are the types of questions, and we don't have the data. So having hard evidence would allow us to make good policy decisions.
Just a follow-up to that. At some point, someone or persons were wise enough to put 2 designated parking spots for physical disabled down in front of TDC. It worked well, and no one was using the spots except those physical disabled people. Many people who are physically disabled don't realize that this is a possibility that they can get this type of service because, how I should say, it's something that they feel like government might not be interested in. And so those 2 spaces weren't utilized, as you said, as much as possible, but those physical disabled people were able to at least had 2 spaces in Charlestown that they could have used. Why initially those 2 spaces were used And now, all of a sudden, persons are getting accustomed to it, those people who are physically disabled, but now they come and they're being used. The markings are there. Tickets used to be handed out for such offenses, parking in physical disabled reserve parking. But all of a sudden, it's not available now. So are we retreating from where we had gone? Thank you.
One thing I like about you, Mr. Nolan, you stick to your point, and I like that a lot. The two spots that you mentioned, I think that is really a question of enforcement. And more than likely, somebody who was perfectly able took a chance and parked there. They didn't get a ticket, so they went back and they parked, then it becomes a habit. So really, the traffic police and the traffic wardens have to enforce. But it doesn't still, for me, answer the fundamental question. How many parking slots do you need, for example, in town to accommodate those who are differently abled? And how do we as a government make that determination, absent representation from someone like yourself who can say to us that this is what the data is suggesting? So it is something that we need to investigate further to come to a proper determination as to what we can do. Bearing in mind, as I said, that every parking spot that is so designated means one less parking spot for other people. Because we know once it's designated, only people with a disability can use it. But I am not for a moment denying that the point you've raised is a very legitimate point. I am just trying to say the difficulty in addressing it effectively without data, without hard evidence as to what the need is and what the demand is. Wonderful. That would be very helpful for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the dialogue. Are there any more in-person questions? If not, we'll go online. Okay. So we'll do it in an orderly fashion. So, okay. Stand, state. Who has the microphone? Stand and state your question. And I ask that the panel keep their responses as brief as possible, if that can happen.
Yes, good evening, everyone. As a resident of Butlers and a proud Butler person, I feel like St. James, we no longer have any priority. And let me see. The roads, let me touch the roads first. There's a road just above the Butlers Domino College. Go across there. That need urgent looking after. The Mannings Road, I know it's a little narrow, and I know Public Works have competent engineers that can sort it out a little and make the road look a little nicer for us. And there's one going up by Antonio Paris, which leads up to O'Keefe, Busu. I think that needs a little looking after as well. And it needs the drainage because the water, it's gushed down there, going to the neighbor's yard. So it needs a little drainage there. Come across to the community center. As a shelter manager for the community center, I realize that there's some work being done on it. And I understand that they're going to have AC thing in there. But then looking at it from the mountain side, the windows, I don't know if it can accommodate the AC part. Eden Browne, that needs a little looking after. An historical place, a unique place. The road, I often see the taxi drivers would just stay at the bottom of the road and indicate to the tourists. That is Eden Browne. So the road needs looking after. And the last one is the bridge. And that's the one by Eden Browne, just by Esme shop. A few months ago, it was flooded with water. Nobody seemed to have a look at it since, so can somebody have a look at it and sort it out? And when you are coming, make sure that somebody, persons from our village would come and indicate to you certain things. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Premier Brantley, as you stated in your comments, there have been developments in the St. James area, and we do congratulate the Honorable Alexis Jeffers for the work that he has done. However, I'd like to place my questions to Minister Browne. Minister Browne, up to this morning, I heard on the news that there would be some roads that would be repaired. However, I did not hear the camps to Westbury Road being mentioned. And I think that it was stated before that that road would have been given some consideration. However, we await. Also, with the new project that is hopeful at Garner's, I'm wondering if there would be a paved road going up from whether Nisbets or Shaw's Road, going straight up to Fountain, as was done in previous years. Many years ago we had roads there. However, I think there would be a need for paved roads. So probably that could be taken in as part of the infrastructure. Thirdly, Minister of Education. We are here in this lovely building, which I think is the property probably of maybe health or gender affairs. And we have our Combermere preschool here. Over the years, as an educator, I know I rallied along with other members of education to have this preschool here. However, over the years, we've only been able to accommodate 20 children. Other children have been going to other preschools, whether private or public, in the island. And therefore, I think it's about time that we seriously consider giving Combermere Preschool a home of its own. Sometimes Gender Affairs would say that they would like to have this building alone, and therefore that is also being considered. But I think the time has come when Combermere Preschool should have a home of its own. I have been speaking with the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, and I know I spoke to him concerning the acquiring of lands for that purpose. And could you all please, we need to have more children. Furthermore, when we look at that project in Maddens, if we want our children really to stay in the area, we know we have a problem with the population at the VOJN school and also the St. James school. If we really want our children to stay in the area, we have to seriously consider. So, Minister of Education, I await with urgency our own Combermere Preschool. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my good dear friend, and good evening, everyone. I want to address, turn up this mic, Zimba. I want them to hear me very clearly. You hearing me? Good, that's a little better. Let me first of all deal with the last set of questions in terms of the roads in Camps and Westbury. Camps to Westbury. I want to say to you that we have the design from Catesby, Fountain, Mount Lily, all the way over to Nisbets. Fountain, through all of that. We have that design already. We have the estimate for that road already. The challenge that the NIA is currently facing is the availability of some serious funds to get that project implemented. So it's not a matter of the NIA is neglecting it or not prepared to do it. We have what we need to get it done. It's just a matter of getting it implemented. You spoke about the area of Ghana's and University Heights, I believe. We already received a request from the Minister of Housing to have a partnership with the Housing Department and the Public Works to construct the road in the University Heights area. We are presently in the process of completing the estimate for that particular road. And once we have that estimate, then we will sit with Nevis Housing and Land and work out some logistics in terms of implementing that road. Spoke about Fountain. Yes, I think I addressed Fountain, Ghana's, University Heights, all of that. The previous good lady on the other side spoke about some roads in Butlers. We would recall that we did some significant road improvement in Butlers perhaps 2 years ago. We are well aware that there are some secondary village roads that we really have to go back and deal with. As I said at the Jessup's town hall last week, that we are trying to pivot right now from doing a lot of these major road infrastructure because of the heavy outlay of resources. What we are focusing on is some of these secondary village roads that you spoke about, that we can bring some development and upgrades to those various roads. I did highlight a few in St. Thomas's, because at that time we were in St. Thomas's. But it is something that we are looking at island-wide, in Butlers, in St. Thomas's, in Gingerland, in St. Paul's, in St. John's. There are numerous drainage issues in some of these communities, and a lot of these secondary village roads that we have to deal with, and we are looking at it holistically throughout the entire island. So I just wanted to assure both of you that those secondary village roads are priority, because my colleagues have said to me, in no uncertain terms, we are not in a position to do a $10 or $15 million project, to some $250,000 road project that will bring some significant relief to the various communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister Brand. We'll now have... Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank Teacher Elliott for her great input, and just to respond on the... Better? Okay, just to respond in terms of a preschool for the St. James area, I am totally with you on it. It's something that has been discussed. It's something that we are looking at. Of course, you know, we would have to secure the land and so on. In terms of the situation with the primary schools in the area, that is something that we are also looking at. I had discussions on it up to last week. I think it was on Friday. So it's something that we are really looking at. I know that you wanted to come. I know that you were part of the discussion bringing the preschool here to this building. And the fact that we brought a preschool here to this building, it showed that we understood that there is a need. And I think the natural next step would be to get an actual permanent home for the St. James preschool. So that is something that we are really looking at, and hopefully it would happen in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Brand and Minister Liban, for your responses.
Can I?
I will know. Yes, I was going to pass on to the Premier to answer.
Let me just add, because, ladies and gentlemen, you see, in my position as Premier of Nevis, I'm the one who stands sort of in the middle. And I have to, because if we go around Nevis and we go to these town hall meetings, when we hear the responses from the audience, the entire budget of the NIA would be spent in one community. When I listen to my friend over here talk about butlers, that's the whole budget gone and butlers alone, right? The reason I'm saying that is because, not to say that these projects are not important or they don't need to be done, but we have to consider that we have the whole of Nevis that we have to take care of. And what we've done in terms of roads, especially, is that in the communities, we've tried to do the main thoroughfare. If you go in Bath, you go in Browne Hill, you go down Hanley's Road, you go even here in Shaw's Road, the main road, Butlers, and then we have left the smaller roads, the tributaries. And Minister Browne is right that we are pivoting now to say, let us try to do some of those. But I want our people to appreciate. I mean, when I'm looking at housing, for example, we saw 126 homes. I think that's the number I have. Sorry, 112, forgive me, built in St. James over the period. St. John's is the largest population in Nevis. St. John's only got 46 homes over the same period. Gingerland only got 25. Town got 31. My colleague was just reminding me that St. James has 3 community centers. St. Paul's doesn't have one. So sometimes when we engage with the public says, oh, I need this in my village, I need this, and we understand that. But from my vantage point, I have to look at all of Nevis and to say that development must come to every part of the island. And since we don't have the resources to do everything all at once, sometimes we recognize that some communities will complain and say, well, this hasn't happened for us yet. But I want to be very clear. I'm sitting down in the heart of St. James. St. James has seen significant development and significant investment in infrastructure by this government, perhaps more so than any other constituency on the island of Nevis. This constituency has seen. I saw a rather odd comment recently where somebody suggested that St. James had gone backwards. And I say, well, it got to be that backward and forward have changed, because I don't know anybody could look at St. James today and say that St. James has gone anywhere than but forward, because significant investment. When I drive in Butlers, and let us be fair, when you remember what Butlers Road was and you look at Butlers now, it's day and night. Day and night. You drive up Shaw's Road, it's day and night to what was. You remember the old police station in Newcastle? Now you have 4 Seasons over there. Day and night. You all remember that we used to drag our suitcase through some sand and beg Mr. Yarwood them permission to use an old breakdown pier down there? Look at what you have now. Thousands of people sitting down in air-conditioned comfort. All of that has happened in St. James. So I just want to say that yes, development is necessary. Yes, we need to do more. But we also need to remember that the same demands that you're making, St. Paul's is making, St. John's is making, St. George is making, and St. Thomas's is making. So we have to be balanced in terms of our approach. And so I ask for your patience, because those are the realities that we face. Thank you.
I'll just touch briefly on the question regarding the Butlers Community Center. I think in the same breath you would have mentioned that you're being neglected while saying we're fixing it. So those two things contradict each other, but we did identify Butlers Community Center as one of the priority areas that we wanted to upgrade. And so we got our maintenance team in there, and they have been doing significant work on the interior as well as the roofing, some of the windows, some of the shower spaces in that center to make sure that it is a better, more usable space. The windows that I believe you're referring to, the ones facing the roadside, the windows, we identified that they are functional and in good order. I know they might not be as beautiful as more modern windows perhaps, but they are functional, effective, and once they're closed, the AC will stay inside. And that's what we encourage the users of the center to do. Utilize what we have. We've identified the areas that need the work, and we are putting in the money into upgrading that. So the Butlers Community Center will be upgraded and ready for more programs in the incoming future. Regarding the Franklyn Browne Community Center, yes, that is under the domain of the Department of Community Development as well. And I think we have been coexisting in this space fairly well with the preschool, and I can't think of a better development for community than investing in early childhood. So if there is a need to share the space for that integral purpose until further notice, we are happy to continue that relationship.
Thank you for your responses. So I say to the audience, time is going, so we'll facilitate one question per person at this time, and then we'll hop online because we have 3 questions that needs to be answered. So can we get the microphone to this side, please?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Sylvester, 1 second. We have a gentleman in the back, and then we'll take you. Thank you.
Thank you. I have 2 questions, and unfortunately, Mr. Browne would be answering those 2 questions. From a planning standpoint, the work that was done at the Wally, Sitaxi, what I have discovered is that people who use the facility there would park their vehicles on the roadside. What is happening now is, what is happening now is that coconut trees have been planted strategically where people would park their vehicles along the roadside. I have gone there and I have measured the coconut trees from the main road, and it's 20 inches. I recall that there was at one time an ordinance which says if you have land, you have to leave a certain distance before you could occupy it. And my concern is that 2 years from now, when those coconut trees have grown, the leaves or the branches are going to intrude on the main road. And if nothing is done now, the problem is just going down the road, because what would happen 5 years from now, the trees start to bear, coconuts drop, and might drop on somebody's windshield. And I would hope that the authorities take note of that and make necessary approach to the person or persons who have done that, so that we could be having a good road going on. Secondly,
Mr. Smith, and I'm sorry, but because of time constraints, we'll only be able to facilitate 1 question at this time, because there are other persons, so I'll allow Minister Browne to answer, and then we'll continue.
Good evening again, and thank you so much for that question. I believe that you mentioned that matter to me some time ago, and I am aware that we would have also discussed that very issue internally. We are in the process of doing a bit of research, because we want it to be absolutely clear when we make a determination as to how we deal with it. I know that we have a surveyor that is doing some research for us, and once I have that information, I know that we will discuss it at Cabinet and take a decision on it. So I'm aware of it, Mr. Farrell. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister Browne. So now we'll have a question in the back, and then we'll have Sylvester. So we'll have the gentleman here. Yes. Utilize the microphone so that you can be heard, please. Thank you.
Nobody put no mic and no camera on me. Don't put no camera on me.
Ask your question, but you have to utilize the microphone.
If this meeting is one meeting for so long, how then we have limited time? Then it means then you guys has to get these meetings more often, so that we could get our questions in. I agree. Yeah, because
I think that's an excellent point that you've made.
Yeah.
And what we have decided to do is that this is the first in a series of meetings that we will have. We wanted to get in 5 parishes, 5 constituencies before Culturama. And then after the festivities, we'll be coming back to you over the course of the next several months in order to report and to get your feedback. So I take the point. I think it's a valid point that's made. This will become a more frequent occurrence for us that we come into the community. So we are hopeful that you will be here and you'll have your questions and suggestions as well as we go forward. Thank you for that.
Sylvester, you may proceed.
This question, Mr. Brantley, in this trying downturn economic that we have here, what our alternative other than tourism we are planning to implement?
You say in terms of the economy?
Yes.
So, Sylvester, we're doing a number of different things. One, we have been trying to stimulate the small business community with a variety of initiatives that we have introduced, including making loan funding available to small businesses at 3% interest of up to $100,000 to try to promote small business, encourage small business, because we understand that small businesses are the backbone of any economy, including ours. We have been trying to get new industries and new, how should I say, economic indicators in the community. So we've talked about a movie industry. We tried to develop that. In fact, we just launched the Film Commission, and over the last 2 months, we've had a very famous TV series filmed here over the course of 10 days, and we've just had a movie that finished filming here last week. That is usually not something that you see in Nevis, so that's something we're seeking to do. We have been trying in terms of the call centers that we've reintroduced. Nevis now, many people don't know perhaps, but we now have 3 call centers operating on the island, 2 in Charlestown and another at Browne at the Radius Call Center. What we're trying to do is to create other avenues for employment and for opportunity for persons that are not necessarily tied to tourism. Tourism remains important. Tourism will always be important, but we're trying to do other things. In addition, we've made a lot of talk over the years about geothermal energy. We feel that we now have good momentum with that. We have finally had 5 important bidders that have bid. We opened the bids on the 30th of June. Those bids will be evaluated, and we are hopeful that by the end of July, we will know what we're doing in terms of who is going to come to do the drilling of the production wells, which is a significant step forward for the geothermal project. We see geothermal energy as ultimately the single most important factor to transform the Nevis economy, away from our dependence on tourism and towards something that is different and something that will generate new jobs, different types of jobs, and allow our young people different types of opportunities. We have also just passed legislation to bolster our financial services sector, including introducing online gaming as a licensable activity on the island of Nevis. And already I can tell you there's tremendous international interest in that. So the government has not been sitting back at all. We have been engaging in different areas to try to see how we can promote and how we can generate additional business. I can't end, however, without saying to you, Sylvester, that one of the gaps that we have is that Nevisians keep saying they don't know, they didn't hear, or they hear and they don't pay attention in terms of taking the advantage of these opportunities. As Premier of Nevis, I tell my colleagues all the time that we announce this program, we announce that program. There are people who come to my office who don't speak English. They come sometimes with an interpreter, or I use my phone and I'm talking to them through my phone. But guess what? They come to us to say, I hear the government doing this and doing that, I come. And Nevisians who born, raise, talk, them say them no know. Them no hear. Well, Spanish people here. And Nevisians that can't hear. And this is something I don't know what to say. Because we put programs in place, the people who are rushing in to take advantage of these programs, while our own people are sitting back and say they don't know, them no hear. I go to places, they look at employees. We have Nevisians saying they can't find work, but these people are saying nobody's applying. What do? We continue to try our best to get the information out and to encourage our own people to take advantage of the opportunities. But we are doing a number of things, Sylvester, and I'm hopeful that in the fullness of time, those various efforts are going to bear fruit, and we will see the expansion that we're looking for, and the weaning away from the over-dependence that we currently have on tourism. So I'm agreed with you on that. We need to do more.
So, thank you. Yeah, we will come back around one more time. So I do have a question geared towards the Honorable Jeffers as it relates to the airport project. You spoke about the economic development and job creation that it will have. The question posed, what environmental or infrastructural considerations, if any, have been factored into the planning and execution of the airport project?
Well, to date, we have had a number of consultations regarding this project. We have come to this center. We have gone to Pond Hill Community Center, and I believe the first one we had in St. Paul's, at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall. But the one that was held over at the Pond Hill Community Center was specifically to present the environmental and social impact assessment to the general public. All of the issues pertaining to the development, social issues, environmental issues, those were discussed and packaged and presented to the planning department. The Department of Physical Planning would have already responded to our submission, and they had concerns that we have since answered. And I believe members of the general public would have submitted concerns to the Department of Physical Planning as well. So all that information was already dealt with as we would have gone along with this project. So those are, I believe, the answer that I'm giving is specifically to say that we have already made those presentations to planning, and so I believe they still can be requested and seen there, Minister Browne there. So those documents are with the Department of Physical Planning, yes.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this question would go toward the Premier or Minister Browne, as seen though he's responsible for labor, but the question posed is that there's a clear and growing gap in specialized skills on the island, which possesses a challenge to both economic growth and self-sufficiency. What strategies is the administration implementing to encourage and support our youth in pursuing education and training in these critical skilled areas?
Thank you for that question. I think that we need to recognize that there is a lot more demand that is being placed on skill set. And from an educational point of view, I know that we are embarking on the TVET program here on the island of Nevis. I believe that once that program is fully up and running, we can see some significant development in terms of our training of our young people. I know that there are a number of areas at the Gingerland TVET Center at the moment. Once that is expanded, we are hoping that we'll be able to create the necessary platform for our young people. I think, though, however, that we continue to see that there are some training in terms of some attachment with various businesses, with electrical businesses, with construction company. I know we have the various summer attachment programs and so on that some of our high school students and even some of the persons who are leaving school can be attached to. So there are some avenue for persons, but I think that the key for us in the short to long term would be the TVET program here on the island of Nevis. I believe that that will be, in my mind, a game changer for the island of Nevis.
Thank you, Minister Browne. The last question I received via WhatsApp, this is geared towards Minister Liburd, Minister responsible for education. The question asked is, how frequently do teachers receive professional training and development? And if there are any plans to enhance or expand programs to ensure that educators are equipped to deal with students who may suffer from autism, etc., or any type of learning disability?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that question. And oddly enough, as we speak, the Department of Education is going to be embarking on some technology training which should start immediately after school closes. I think school closes next week, Friday. So the following Monday should start this week Friday. Oh, sorry, I'm living happy. so I'm a week early, or a week behind. So yes, we should start some training, and that is what we're trying to do, is to upskill our teachers so that they could be prepared to implement technology in the classroom more. So over this summer, we're going to be doing 1 week of training in Microsoft Word, then sometime later in the summer we'll do another week in Microsoft Excel. And as when it comes to training for persons to deal with children with various disabilities such as autism, we have had a few persons who have gone off to study and specialize in those areas. Those are very special skills. There are a few persons on island who have been trained to deal with that. Of course, we try to encourage teachers as much as possible, and where teachers are seeking to better themselves, the government does offer financial support for teachers.
Thank you. The gentleman at the back, did you have another question? It's the one standing, Benny?
Okay. Premier Brantley was talking about the Spanish people arriving to take opportunities. But Premier Brantley, do you have an idea of the wage for these jobs? Do you have an idea of the payment for these jobs that these Spanish or whatever coming to occupy?
So the comment that I made was about government programs. Yes, no, I'm not talking about jobs. I'm talking about things when you hear about school uniform, you hear about school textbooks, you hear about assistance to people. That's what I'm saying. That they come to access these types of programs while other people say they don't know about them. In terms of wages, however, we now have, of course, a minimum wage by law. I think that minimum wage just went up 1st of July. It went up to what? Is it $500 a week now? $12.50 per hour, $500 weekly. So that's the minimum wage. And so that ought to be the minimum that any job on the island pays. Right? If it is, I see you shaking your head that you're suggesting people may be getting paid less than that. Well, that is breaking the law, because the law now has set the minimum at $12.50 an hour, $500 a week. That's in your minimum wage. That wasn't set by us. That is set by the federal government, which deals with the minimum wage. I believe there was a task force. Chanel, if I recall, you sat, Chanel, on that task force?
I did, yes.
Okay. So blame Chanel for the increase in minimum wage. But I think that what it means is that our people who are working at that level should be able to take home a bit more pay, because the minimum wage has increased. This is the second increase in the last several months, and so that new increase has gone into effect the 1st of July.
I have a question to the left.
Yes, again, my question is for Mr. Browne. Mr. Browne, what is the status of the Camp Spring in respect to water?
The Camp Spring, we are not necessarily using too much water from the Camp Spring, Mr. Smitten. The surface water basically is, most of it is being captured, but you know that we have embarked on a number of deep well drilling in the Maddens area. So the amount of water that we are getting from that is not necessarily being utilized. Some of it is going in the tank, some of it is being captured. We have some concern about the actual I don't want to say, well, the quality of it. I'm going to use the premier word. You know, we have some concerns about it. So we are not necessarily, we are treating it as much as we can. We are using a little bit of it, but we are not necessarily utilizing as much of it as we used to before. Thank you.
Preserving the water that is not properly taken care of.
I hear you, but I disagree. I hear you, but I disagree. Thank you.
So we'll have one more question, and then we'll have the panelists do their closing statements.
My question, I know Mr. Leibert mentioned about training programs. In my acknowledgement and my knowledge, a person with a skill certificate can access work in any CARICOM island without a work permit. Now, my thing is, in Nevis, we don't have that facility of gaining a skill certificate. When I mean a requisite skill certificate, that a person could move from here, during to this free movement, and go into another place and present his or her skill certificate in order to get a requisite job. We're still behind. As Nevis people, I know that we are behind on skill certificates. Even though that we might go through some training programs, we're still not getting the requisite certificate in order to go out there and achieve the job that we are supposed to have. Is there any way anybody thinking about getting these skill certificates requisite so that people can move forward with these skill certificates to other countries and have permanent jobs?
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, if you could allow me to just respond. Sylvester, I sit on the Skill Certificate Committee. Sorry?
Identify yourself.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
No, he knows me. My good cousin Sylvester, yes. I am Wakely Daniel, Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Premier. As Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Premier, I do sit on the Skill Certificate Committee in St. Kitts. And yes, divisions can get their skill certificate, and we see it happening from time to time. One of the problems that we have, though, is that even though we advertise it, even though we go on the radio, television, and we speak about it, and we try to put it out there, we find that a lot of divisions are not accessing or applying for skill certificate. For some reason, I think that's perhaps the thing that, well, I am working and I will remain in Nevis for the rest of my life. We try to encourage them to apply for the skill certificate. And you do have one or two of them that are doing it, but anyone, once you meet the standard, which is up to, let's say, a sixth form college, if you go to the sixth form college, you can get your skill certificate. If you are, for example, you have a degree, you can get your skill certificate. Or if you find yourself in certain jobs and you have training up to a certain level, you can get your skill certificate. As a matter of fact, you can go to the Labor Department and they have a form there that you will fill out the form. The form will then go to St. Kitts to the trade office in St. Kitts, and then of course we'll take it from there. We'll have the committee meeting, and then we'll get back to you whether or not your application was successful. But yes, Nevisians can, and one or two of them have done so, but you can get your skill certificate.
Yes.
I think, Sylvester, I just wanted to add, because I understood your question a little differently. I believe that my understanding of the question had to do with other skills and acquiring a certification for those skills. And I think that's where the TVET comes in. So let us say, for example, somebody is doing electrical, or somebody is doing body mechanic, a car mechanic or something like that, right? Currently, we don't have on Nevis the ability for that person to be certified, right? Well, we are putting that in place now through the TVET.
Over in Gingerland,
TVET,
right?
right.
Right? And they're doing cosmetology, and they don't get a certificate when they leave school.
No, but they should.
They don't get a certificate when they
what I'm
leave
saying
school.
is that is what we're now implementing through the TVET Center. The Minister of Education is not into me. That with something called a CVQ, which is a Caribbean-wide certification that is now being introduced here. We have the first center built in Gingerland. We're supposed to build a second in Charlestown, but that is the purpose behind them.
Yeah,
so
but
that when you do cosmetology,
my thing is, right, I know 3 people for the past 2 years, right? 3 people passed through that cosmetology program. I haven't get a certificate.
the minister, you'd have to look into that.
So you need to look into that?
Sylvester, if you can speak to the minister, because that's the purpose of why we have implemented the TVET education. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll have the panelists give their closing statements. We'll start with Minister Nisbet.
Okay, I think I'll close by first thanking everyone for coming out this evening and engaging in a very robust conversation here with us. Those who would have chimed in online, I think it was very engaging throughout the evening. From within the Ministry of Health, Gender Affairs and Social Empowerment, we will continue to be a people-centered ministry and work to the best of our ability to continue to execute programs across the board that actively benefit Nevisians across all walks of society. So thank you so much for coming out. Please join us at the next edition of our town hall meeting so that we may engage you further.
Okay, just a brief wrap-up. I want to thank you as well for coming out this evening. I think this is the best crowd we've had thus far. Give yourself a round of applause. And just to say, well, we'll continue to press on in our effort to deliver the Van Sammy International Airport upgrade and expansion project. And just a quick note to let you know that you're in safe hands and good hands with the Concerned Citizens Movement, yeah? And that's it. Thank you very much. Have a good night, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out. We don't take it for granted. We always know that when people leave their homes, comfort of their homes, to come out to engage with us, that they're making their contribution. And so we are very grateful to all of you for coming, for the questions, for the suggestions, for the comments. The offer from Mr. Nolan to be my research assistant to get me the necessary information. So we're truly grateful to you all. And development is what we are about. We are about moving this island forward. We recognize it takes time, it takes effort, but we as a government are committed to achieving it and to reporting to you regularly as to that which we are seeking to achieve. And so I thank all of you for your time and attention, and we look forward to seeing you at our next town hall meeting, which I think is this Thursday in Hanley's Road. Thank you very much.
Okay. So as we bring this town hall meeting to an end, I want to thank everyone for coming and engaging, asking your questions, sharing your comments, and being respectful while doing so. I also want to thank the panelists for engaging with the audience and the ministers of cabinet that are here, the PSAs and the heads of departments. And if you didn't get the opportunity to speak tonight, there's 2 other town hall meetings, and the next one will be this coming Thursday, July 10th, at the Hanley's Road Community Center beginning at 7 p.m. So if you didn't get to speak, you head on there and you continue to engage the NIA as they strive to communicate with you, hear your concerns, and be transparent with the island. Thank you for coming and have a good night. Get home safely. Thank you.